I'm going to say a few words, and then we're going to ask our two county supervisors and the new superintendent of the GGNRA to give some opening remarks. We will then have a presentation on a draft of an MOU that's been negotiated between the county and the National Park Service, and we will then hear from members of my ad hoc group who've been working with me for the last almost 6 months on what you're going to be hearing about tonight, and then we're going to open this thing up to public comment. But I want to offer just a few words to start us out. And it seems to me that with the exception of Governor Chris Christie's political enemies in New Jersey, I'm not sure anyone has had to endure the kind of traffic gridlock that we see on peak summer days and increasingly on weekends in southern Marin, due in large part to the popularity of some of the things that just make this place really special and great. Places like Mount Tam, Stinson Beach, Muir Beach, and of course, Muir Woods. What we'll be discussing tonight is not a silver bullet to all of southern Marin's traffic headaches, but it is a potential solution to the Muir Woods part of it, and that's a significant part. It's also an opportunity to resolve the long-standing resentment and conflict that has festered between many local residents and the Park Service, leaving the county, who owns the road in front of Muir Woods, kind of caught in the crossfire and challenged to implement any kind of meaningful problem by itself. Things have become more contentious in recent years. I won't recount the whole history. There are certainly plenty of people in this room who have lived it. And I'm not going to assign blame, because there's always plenty of that to go around in a situation like this. But I will say that the acrimony reached a new height last summer after the community reacted very negatively to a Park Service proposal for a new Muir Woods satellite parking lot off Panoramic. And there's still some reaction to that. And then a citizen lawsuit was actually filed against the Park Service over a proposed new bus stop. Now, when the community and the Park Service and the county feel like they have to talk to each other through lawyers, that's pretty bad. And I'm a lawyer. I like lawyers. But it's been pretty rough. So I got involved, and I first got involved by requesting that the Park Service withdraw its proposal for a parking lot on Panoramic, which they did. And I'm pleased to say that they kept their promise to me and later added a specific commitment to no new parking lot on Panoramic in the recent general management plan for the GGNRA. I think the community appreciates that very much, and so do I. Then I convened this ad hoc group to explore whether we could break through the years of adversarial logjam and find some consensus solutions to start getting some things done about the Muir Woods parking and traffic problem. So I asked the National Park Service, the county, and a broad range of stakeholders to join me and to try to have a productive problem-solving dialogue. We brought this group together last October, and you see before you on the dais tonight the members of that ad hoc group. Most of these folks have been in the trenches of this issue for well over a decade, much longer than me. And I will just say that I know there were many others who we would love to have included in the ad hoc group, who probably wanted to be part of it. I apologize to anyone who wanted to participate but was unable to. We had to keep the group to a manageable size, and looking at this group, that's a pretty large ad hoc group, so I'm sorry that we did have to draw some limits, but I think what we came up with was a remarkably broad, credible, and diverse group of stakeholders. And to a person, they were able to put aside past conflicts and engage in a truly respectful and productive dialogue that led us to concrete solutions. They also put in a lot of their time. 5 long meetings with the full group and numerous smaller meetings and negotiations over the course of about 6 months, as I said, including some back and forth right up through last weekend. I am proud to say that the proposal that we'll be presenting you tonight is supported by every participating stakeholder group in our ad hoc process and has now been memorialized in a draft memorandum of understanding that will be considered in the weeks ahead for approval by the National Park Service and the County Board of Supervisors. I want to thank each of the ad hoc group members, and I especially want to thank my staff here tonight and my district director, Jenny Calloway, for doing such a great job on this process. And I want to give a special thanks to our 2 county county supervisors. They're here tonight, you'll hear from them in a moment, but they worked very patiently and persistently on this issue. Supervisor Kate Sears, who probably has the most constituents impacted by this problem, was working on that handful of extra improvements she wanted to see in the MOU on behalf of the community she represents right up into the end of this last holiday weekend. She has been tireless in advocating for Southern Marin communities, and I will tell you, we would not be here. We would not have achieved the results we've had if it hadn't been for her commitment and resolve, as well as that of Supervisor Kinsey. So thank you both. Tonight, in addition to being a public meeting with all of you, is the final meeting of this ad hoc group. We agreed at the beginning that if we were successful, if we got to a point of group consensus, we would have our final meeting in public. We would roll out to you the results that we came up with. We wanted to show to the public what we had as soon as we had it, and that's why this did come together on fairly short notice. I'm really pleased to see we were able to get the word out and have such a great response. In a few moments, after the presentation from the Park Service and the county on the proposal, we're going to ask the stakeholder members of the ad hoc group to actually speak and to very briefly explain to you who they are, who they represent, why they support the plan of action. I emphasize briefly because the county and the Park Service are now moving into a public phase of this, where starting tonight and continuing with the Board of Supervisors hearing, they'll be hearing from all of you. They've already heard from the ad hoc group over the course of the last 6 months, so we'll want to be as brief as we can and move forward to the open part of the meeting where we'll hear from all of you. Given the years of public debate and the many community meetings that have happened, the occasional litigation on this subject, I know there are a lot of people in this room who would probably love to hear that this is the end, that we have solved it all, and the traffic problems involving Muir Woods are now going to quickly go away. I want to be honest with you. I'm really happy with what we've been able to produce, but this is not the end. It is hopefully the beginning of the end. There's still a public process that needs to happen before even the county or the National Park Service can formally sign the draft MOU that you're going to be hearing about tonight. And at the end of that, obviously a majority of the Board of Supervisors has to vote to approve it. So I want to emphasize that in addition to your opportunity to have input tonight, you'll have the opportunity for input at the Board of Supervisors hearing on this subject. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the details in the MOU change based on the input that will continue to be received from the public or from other public agencies. It's possible there may be complications, such as litigation, that could delay the MOU and cause timeframes to slip. So just about everything we're talking about here tonight is somewhat preliminary, but with all of those caveats, I want to express my personal optimism. Because after years of dysfunction and conflict, I think we have a very good, viable, proposed plan of action to tell you about tonight. It would be a vast improvement over the status quo that could bring meaningful improvements starting in just a few months, and even bigger improvements phased in over the next several years. Each of you, obviously, will have to decide what you think of this. It's a compromise between a lot of different interests, so nobody is probably going to see everything in this that they want. But it's the best deal that I feel like I and my ad hoc group could produce, and I strongly believe it's the best deal, frankly, any of us are going to get. So I urge you to give it your careful consideration, and then you can decide what you think about it. In terms of logistics tonight for the public comment, my staff is going to have comment cards that they will be circulating. We'd like you to fill out your questions or comments on those cards, and then at the end of the remarks from the dais, I will start going through those, and I will call groups of you up to the microphone. Again, I'll ask you to be concise in stating your comment or question, and we'll try to cover as much ground as we can. Any of these that we don't get to tonight, we will have collected the cards, and I will make sure that they go to the County Board of Supervisors and to the National Park Service as public input for their consideration as they move forward with their decision making. So with that, I want to hand it over to Supervisor Kate Sears.
It's a little blinding with the light. So Congressman Huffman, I really want to thank you for your generous remarks tonight, but also for bringing together our stakeholder group. This has not been an easy process. The conversation amongst the stakeholders has been frank, pointed. I'd say that we started out with a lot of different views in the room, and we really have made significant progress. For those of you out there who are lawyers like I am, and I'm sure there's some of you, it's kind of like when you go to mediation and all the parties come out and they're not feeling great, and you know you've really found a good solution. And I think this is a good start, and it's a good start because of all the public input that we've gotten on this issue for a long, long time. For those of us who live in Southern Marin, I think we've been anxious for a long time now to address the traffic problems that all of us face, that impacts all of our lives on our beautiful holiday weekends. Even when the weather is not so good, we get traffic in Southern Marin that really impacts all of us. And that's been a driving force really for, I think, most of us in the stakeholder group. In addition to that, we're all concerned about the environmental impact. We want to make a change, both in the traffic that we see going through Tam Valley and along Shoreline Highway, and we also want to make a change to the abuses that we've seen, the incredible amount of parking that has been along Redwood Creek. Only over 400 cars parking there on our busiest weekends. That's unacceptable as an environmental impact. And this agreement, draft agreement that you're going to learn more about tonight, makes significant strides, cutting that number down dramatically to 110. That's a good thing. As I said to people earlier this morning, I wish that I had a magic wand to wave and make all of the traffic that we confront, all of the environmental impacts that our environment confronts, from the incredible visitation to this beautiful Muir Woods that everybody wants to go to. I wish I had that wand to make it go away and make it fix it right away. We don't have a magic wand, but we have a glide path and we have a plan. And I think it's a very workable plan. What we're really talking about is changing human behavior. And none of that happens quickly. So I'm hopeful that we have, what you'll hear about tonight, is a framework that creates that glide path, that allows human behaviors to change, that creates a change circumstance that can be well enforced, because behavior change needs that little supportive enforcement in a meaningful way to make it happen. We want to see this succeed. We want to see this change happen. And it's because of all the input that all of you in this room have had for a long time, continuing into the present and going forward. As the Congressman indicated, we're coming to you to show you the work that we have done, that this is not the end of the story. And it won't be the end of the story. If we get an approved MOU by the National Park Service, by the Board of Supervisors, we then implement that program. And an important part of this agreement that you'll hear more about is a public reporting aspect and a requirement to this agreement. So there will be reporting to the Board of Supervisors once a year, but perhaps even more importantly for everybody in this room, there will be a community meeting. So the opportunities for community input, for analysis, what's working, what isn't working, what are issues that people are seeing, that's built into this agreement and guaranteed in this agreement to go forward. So see what you think. You'll hear the presentations and we'll have a future conversation. Thank you very much for being here.
Supervisor Kinsey.
Thank you, Jared. Well, thank you all for being here this evening, and with two articulate leaders like Jared and Kate having presented most of the framework, my job is fairly simple tonight. First, I want to thank everyone in the room, because this really is a challenge that requires involvement of many. I want to thank the community organizations and the representatives who participated, and certainly I want to thank the Congressman again and his staff for giving us the leadership and the determination to keep working, and to keep working towards a framework that is even now only a draft. It still, as was mentioned, requires consideration by all of us in the room here, and importantly by the Board of Supervisors. I do want to say that we will be taking this up at the Board of Supervisors hearing on June 16th. And so for those who can attend or want to watch on the internet, June 16th is the date that this item will be agendized for our board's consideration. and I've been assured by the Congressman that the Park Service will be able to follow through on their end after we take action within the balance of the month. So we're really trying to set something in place so that we can actually see progress happen this summer, and more importantly, make constant improvements over the years ahead that lie in this. The other thing I want to say is that I really strongly believe that the reservation concept, the idea of spreading and accounting for when people come and go from the park is fundamental to managing the visitation at Muir Woods. And so it's an essential element of what we've worked out. We didn't work that out just even amongst those of us who are sitting at the table. I want to thank our Department of Public Works. We have our Director, Raul Rojas, here today with us. Thank you. And importantly, I think Eric Stager deserves a special acknowledgement. He'll be presenting tonight. But these are people that worked through weekends, through evenings, turned things around very quickly in order for us to be here tonight. I also want to thank our elected sheriff, Bob Doyle, and his staff. They too engaged very directly with the Park Service law enforcement to be able to come up with meaningful terms in which, under the sheriff's authority, he would be willing to allow for expanded enforcement, not a transfer of enforcement. The sheriff will retain full rights as he always has. It's his authority, and that will continue. And I want to thank the new superintendent of the GGNRA, Chris Leonards. She'll be speaking, but what a job to walk into, huh? So we're counting on you, Chris, and I know that, as all of us know, that these have been tough years. Trust has been low, so the scrutiny that this document will receive, and more importantly, the framework as it plays out, and as we all get to watch it and participate with it, is going to be especially important. So thanks for being here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Steve. So last but certainly not least, we have a new superintendent of the GGNRA, and no matter what her predecessors may have told her about what she would encounter in a public meeting like this, I told her I think she's going to get a really warm Southern Marin reception, because all of us are ready for her to preside over a wonderful, new, good neighbor era between Southern Marin and our great neighbor, the Park Service. So please welcome Chris Leonard.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. I've been here 4 weeks on the job, and 1 week is in Washington, D.C., so that was kind of a waste. No, I'm really happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. And let me also introduce Aaron Roth. He's the Deputy Superintendent, and he has been in this process for many years, and really is the kind of heart and soul. And my right-hand person here tonight, he's going to be presenting along with the folks from Marin County. And so just wanted to make sure that you recognize him as the guy who has most of the answers. And we're excited about the vision that this draft MOU really can provide for solving what has been a really complex and thorny set of issues. And as a neighbor to the folks here, Muir Woods National Monument, Golden Gate National Recreation Area, I just want you to know we really value this relationship. We want it to be a positive relationship. We want it to be a listening relationship and a learning relationship. And that's part of the tenor of what tonight is all about. Muir Woods was created in 1908. It is a national treasure. It is a place that some people save for their lifetimes, the opportunity to come and see redwoods, to come and see this place that is so special and is such a heart of the conservation story of the United States. And we want to make sure that experience fits in well with the communities that surround this park, that we can manage public safety, that we can manage access to the park, and we can make sure we do it in a way that makes sense and brings an opportunity not just for visitors, but to be good neighbors and to understand the situations that are both out there, to protect natural resources and to make those experiences in traffic congestion as low as possible and anxiety. So I'm not going to say a lot more. We're going to go to the presentations. Jared, thank you very much for everything you've done, and for the county supervisors for all of what we've done together. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Chris. We're going to ask Aaron Roth of the Park Service and Eric Steger of the County Public Works to take over the next part of the agenda and present the MOU to us.
It works. There you go. Very good. Thank you, Congressman Huffman, and welcome again, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Eric Steger. I'm with the Marion County Department of Public Works, and tonight we're going to be making a presentation here jointly with the Park Service. I'm going to scoot out the way to one of the slides. Okay. So I want to start off going over those. These are actually been talked about and worked on for many years. During the course of the years, we're working on one of the memorialized goals. So they're to protect, preserve, and enhance the health of every creek, watershed, including the sediments, to reduce traffic congestion at Muir Woods, on Muir Woods Road, and the local communities adjacent to the Muir Woods, to improve traffic and pedestrian safety and reduce environmental impacts and the rise in parking along Muir Woods Road, and increase local transit and better manage buses, both commercial buses and public transit. Now, this takes a bit of cooperation and integration of activities, and I think for the next slide.
Thanks, Eric. I think those goals reflect well the goals that the National Park Service has had on this issue for a number of years in terms of being able to work in a coordinated way to both manage visitation, manage impacts, and also improve and protect resources. And that really, when we proposed the reservation system a couple of years ago, that was really at the core of what we were looking to do. Through the listening that we've done, we've been able to realize that roadside parking is a key piece of that puzzle for the community. And so what we're going to be talking about today is really how the reservation system and visitation management combined with more intentional parking along Muir Woods Road with resource protection, how it's going to work in an integrated way to help us make progress on this issue. So the actions that we're proposing, Eric will talk a little bit more about the roadside parking in particular, and I'll talk a little bit more about how the visitation management, how those two will work together to make progress.
So this is where we start to get into the meat of the speak out. This is where we get into the meat of the actual MOU. We worked with input from public meetings, from the community representatives and other stakeholders, such as California Department of Parks and Recs and the County Sheriff's Office. And our goal was to eventually eliminate parking south of the concrete bridge, and I'm going to show that on the map here in a moment, over the 7 years of the MOU. This will be the road shoulder parking along the public right of way in Muir Woods Road. We reduced the phase program and showed some additional information on that as well. Part of that work would be to install physical barriers, additional parking restrictions, and then we would initially reduce sort of a 400 or haphazard parking vehicles that are parked there haphazardly at the time of the year down to about 110 spaces.
Speak in the microphone louder. Hold it real close.
Okay, sorry. And of course, along with the parking restrictions, we need to do enforcement along the road. And so part of the MOU grants shared authority to issue tickets along the road and have additional dedicated parking enforcement officers. And so to accomplish one of the goals that we laid out in the beginning, by reducing the parking, the shoulder parking, we'll have fewer vehicles that are parked next to the creek. And then we also plan to install interim stormwater best management practices in those areas as well, such as straw bottles to reduce potential sediment into the creek. So how we're going to reduce the parking? Well, we're going to do it in a phased program. So in the first couple of years, as laid out in the MOU, that's the time period where the reservation system is being developed by the National Park Service. So we're moving from about 400 vehicles that could be haphazardly parked along Muir Woods Road down to 80 again south of the bridge and about 30 north of the bridge. Once the reservation system is in place, there's a cap of 80 vehicles parked along Muir Woods Road, and then within or between years 4.5 and year 7, that cap drops to 40, and eventually by year 7, it goes to 0.
I just want to mention that these maps are in your handout. So there's the PowerPoint handout, which looks like those are in black and white, but there was a summary handout on the front that has, that you picked up on the way, and that's color. And on page 3, there is a map there that's helpful to reference to this next piece. 4. Oh, is it page 4? Sorry, last page, thank you.
So I'm going to start with the map here. It's a little hard to see, but again, you have the information in hand here. This is basically a Google map of the Muir Woods area. Up here at the top, towards the north, is Panoramic Highway, and this yellow or orange line runs down through here along with the blue. All the way down the bottom here is Muir Woods Road. This bottom section being connected to the state Shoreline Highway. This is the park entrance right over here, and this is where the Park Service has the parking lots. And this orange line, blue, depicts what we call the parking enforcement corridor. And that's where we have the shared parking enforcement with the Park Service and the sheriff. The blue line that runs through here, it starts by this actually by a little overflow parking lot from the Park Service, Compliment Avenue, and runs down to about Camp Canyon, is the parking management corridor. This is where we're going to be really enforcing heavily on additional parking restrictions, physical barriers, and where the permit parking will take place through the reservation system from the Park Service. So again, here are years 1 through 2. The first few months we'll have new additional parking restrictions, and of course there will be additional authority granted to the Park Service to enforce parking in that area. Through years 2, the Park Service is developing and implementing the parking reservation system. During this time period, as I already mentioned, the physical barriers will be installed, and initially our goal is to bring parking down fairly quickly to 80 vehicles in this area, and about 30 vehicles in this area, about a total of 110 in this area. We've already actually gone out there and walked and looked at putting additional parking restriction signs for enforcement in these other areas as well. And then we'll be looking at installing the interim stormwater measures as well. Once the years 3 to 4.5, the reservation system is now in place and operating. Again, the map's pretty much the same. At this point, there'll be a cap of 80 vehicles that would be able to be parked along here from the bridge to about Camp Canyon. 30 vehicles remaining up in this area. And this zone will require parking passes in order for vehicles to park there. And that will be issued through the Park Service's reservation system. Also want to mention that we're going to continue to have community meetings twice a year as part of the MOU. One of the meetings will be held at, per year, be held at the Board of Supervisors, and the other meeting will be held down here in Southern Maine in one of the communities. Continuing on, years 4.5 to 7 to the end of the MOU, where the reservation system really should be kicking in. This is also combined with changeable message signs, alerting people about parking restrictions, and other public messaging to discourage people from taking individual vehicles out here and encourage them to use the shuttle and other means of public transportation to get out here. During this time period, the parking cap drops to 40 below the bridge, keeping 30 up here north of the bridge. And then, of course, by the end of this time period, parking is completely eliminated south of the bridge in this area. Now, there's one thing in the MOU I want to mention, and that is during this time period, there is an exception that if the Park Service pursues looking at making improvements to the existing parking lots out there, potentially increasing parking or installing some stormwater protection measures. then the parking counts are allowed for the 80 vehicles during that time, while there's no restrictions in parking in the National Park Service parking lots.
Thanks, Eric. And I think it's been broad agreement between the county and NPS for some time that the roadside parking doesn't work. It's not something that we wanted to sustain under any scenario. It really was always been a question of how. How are we going to get off the road and into more sustainable parking solutions that are safe for visitors, better for the environment, and reduce traffic? And so this has really put some of the pieces together. As Chris said earlier, you know, Muir Woods is truly an amazing place, and it's a national treasure, and it's a place people have traveled a long distance to arrive at. And by the time they arrive, they are really dedicated to making it there. And we have experimented in the past of trying to deter this dedication through signs, or bollards, or blocking things off, or extra enforcement, or postings on our website. And all those measures, they go a part of the way, but they don't get all the way there. And we experience this surge in demand certain parts of the day that end up with these vehicles on the road. So the difference now is we really understand the how, the sequence of events, the things that can come together to eventually lead us to where we can commit to be completely off the road south of the bridge in an amount of time through a phased approach. So we're making that commitment because we now have the tools to get there. And I want to talk a little bit about the reservation system and visitation management and how it matches up with these parking limits that Eric has described. One of the big improvements out of the reservation system, for the important nexus to our goals, is to restore some of the contemplative experience, some of the inspiration that the woods can offer by really reducing and managing congestion inside and outside the woods. Right now, we have a situation where our Muir Woods experience is substantially compromised, and we think that by better managing visitation through reservations, we can restore a contemplative, inspirational quality. Not only the woods always offer that, but now as you arrive in the total experience in the woods. So it's about improving the quality of the experience, providing approximately the same level of access throughout the year, but not all at the same time, so that the visitor arrival is not overwhelmed by people and compromising that experience. So that's really the key of what the reservation system offers. And one of the things we heard really clearly from the community is concern that by reducing peak visitation, by putting in limits at the very busy times, that folks would come other times, and then every day of the year would feel crowded. So that's why in this proposal, we're very clear about commitments to different experiences and different visitation levels at different times of the year. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. Part of this maintains our current commitment to the Muir Woods Shuttle with our partner who are in transit. This has been a proven way to get cars off the road and into buses and enable people to be inspired and have that quality experience while reducing traffic. So we're maintaining that commitment, and we're also committed to increasing transit where feasible. We are also realize that buses are not all equal in their impact, and we have to make sure we're managing all types of different buses coming to the woods, including our own, and that means tour buses and commercial buses. And we want to make sure that they do not exceed the vehicle requirements, and we're going to work to do that. And we're also going to be putting a reservation system in place for buses to make sure that they are spaced out through time. Infrastructure and watershed health. I want to speak to that as well. That we also know that when we talk about resource protection, health of the watershed, infrastructure plays a big role in that. And that the infrastructure we have throughout this watershed is dated and in definite need of upgrading. Most of the National Park Service facilities were installed in the 50s, especially out parking lots. And the Muir Woods Road, the alignment around that is as old as the woods has been a monument. So we definitely need to pursue substantial renovations of that infrastructure so that watershed health can be improved. But in the meantime, we have some interim measures that will help us get there. Okay, this chart admittedly is a little bit complicated at first glance, but it's in your packet in a couple different areas, and it's critical to this conversation about where we're going with this. What we have here is in January through December, this is a year, this is 365 days at Muir Woods National Monument. And on the left is our visitors per day, so this is the number of visitors we experience per day. The black dotted line in the background, that is our 2017 projected visitation with no action. If we did not do anything, that's where our visitation would be. That's simply taking last year's number, bumping it up a little bit, 1 or 2%, and that's where we would be. We are experiencing days, it's worth noting, on peak weekends that everyone feels is in the 5,000 to 6,000 person days. And that is the biggest problem we're tackling right away with the reservation system, is to address those days where everything feels overwhelmed from the Muir Woods entrance all the way through the woods itself. A couple other features of this graph. This blue line, so that's if we did nothing. This blue line is what the maximum visitation will be with the reservation system. So with the reservation system, we are controlling and managing all motorized access to the woods. This includes the commercial tour buses, this includes our own shuttle, and includes all private vehicle trips into the woods. That accounts for the vast majority, I don't know the exact stat, but it's 95% plus. Someone from my team will help me on that later. But it's the vast majority of visitors arrive through motorized transit. The only exceptions are bicyclists or pedestrians, locals that might hike in from downtown or a bunch of other places. So we know that if we carefully control and cap motorized vehicle trips, then we can in effect manage visitation within capacity of the monument and within capacity of the infrastructure to support it, including the parking lots and the roadside parking. And we also know that using this tool of a reservation system, we can spread visitation throughout the day. So not only can we manage it on a daily basis, we can actually say and estimate by giving people target arrival times, actual hourly targets for the number of people that want to ride. Because right now, everyone is coming in the middle of the day. So what we'll be doing is we will still have some days that are busy, and I'll talk more about that, 4,000 person days. But they're going to be within capacity because we'll be managing that by hour and spreading that throughout the day so that we're not exceeding metrics inside the woods and outside the woods for the capacity of both. A couple other features on this is the fact that you see this heartbeat pattern. The uptick in the heartbeat is the weekends, and the low points are the weekdays. So weekdays will not be the same visitation as weekends. Predictably, under the system, we will constrain visitation to these lower points during the weekdays. The other thing is there's seasonality here. I'll talk to you more about that in the next slide. With the seasonality factor, this is the different experiences at different times. So it's important to note that through our studies, we have estimated that and we've talked to this about previous meetings, somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500 is roughly the maximum of where we want to be. But we don't want to be there all the time because we want different experiences and more contemplative experiences at different times. And it's also, there's other considerations, wildlife, etc., and also community considerations. And also the visitor demand is not the same. There would be no point for us to go out and sort of market and entice visitation when the natural demand is not there. So in this scenario, we have, yes, 40% of the time that peak season, April through October, we will have a maximum of just under 4,500, weekdays just less. And then we'll have the shoulder season that's in between. But importantly, a full 40% of the time, we will not be exceeding 2,800 visitors at Muir Woods National Monument. You would know this as an extremely quiet day for Muir Woods at this level, especially when we're managing every hour, so that no single hour is higher than others. So through this, we're able to not substantially increase annual visitation to Muir Woods, provide different experiences at different times, and meet some of our traffic and congestion goals. So just to wrap up as part of the presentation, so what are the results of the reservation system? In summary, the traffic, what does it do? Peak times, Muir Woods related traffic, so the peak season, I should say, that April through November, because we're reducing visitation in the peak season, which is when it's most problematic, we will be reducing Muir Woods associated vehicle trips by 20 to 30% with this system. Importantly, during peak hours of that peak season, where it's really bad, we will be cutting Muir Woods associated vehicle trips in half. We'll have half the number of private vehicle trips coming through Tam Junction during those peak times. In terms of the experience, simply put, it's not an overwhelming number of people outside or inside the park. We are constantly dealing with safety issues, frustration, and conflict amongst our visitors. Just go on Yelp for Muir Woods National Monument, and it is the #1 issue of people visiting Muir Woods is the experience getting there is frustrating. It's the opposite of inspiring. And so we believe this has a huge benefit for that. More, quieter, and contemplative visits. And lastly, the environment. This is just a start of it. It's not the whole picture. There are many other initiatives underway to improve habitat in the Breton Creek watershed, and many by our partners that are sitting in this room. But this does reduce air pollutants because we don't have people circling around looking for parking. We know when they're coming, we have parking available for them. And it's less vehicle trips overall because there's more transit. And we know that there is improved creek-side situation by removing the parking off that, which reduces the risk of sediment going into the creek and possibly reducing habitat in that situation. So those are some of the benefits there. So with that, I'd like to wrap up and turn the mic back over to Congressman Huffman.
All right, thanks everybody. We're going to keep moving, and one of the first questions I actually had on this card from the general public was, who are these stakeholders that were part of your ad hoc group? We have them right here, and we're going to let them introduce themselves. And I have given them the impossible challenge of telling you who they are, who they represent, and why they support this path forward in like a couple of sentences. So we're going to see how well they do. Let's start with Mill Valley Councilwoman Stephanie Moulton-Peters, and I'll just ask you folks to pass the mic as you go.
Thank you, Jared. I'm Councilwoman Stephanie Moulton-Peters, and the residents of the city of Mill Valley share many of the same concerns about safety, traffic, congestion, parking, and the environment. I was happy to be part of a process that I thought brought all the players at this table to a consensus and a compromised position. We all moved towards the middle in order to get started with a plan that will make improvements right away. So that's why I support the MOU.
My name is Nathan Hills. I'm with the Muir Beach Community Services District, which is the tiny little government for the neighboring community of Muir Beach. And basically what I think is notable here is the process was changed. Instead of like a proposal being made and then everybody along this table taking pot shots at it, we were encouraged to sit down at the table together and actually work something out. And I think when we bogged down, the Congressman's office was able to nudge us to the limits of our comfort zone. And so I think that what you've got here as a starting point for the public review process is actually very far through it and something where I think it's gotten a great possibility of success. So anyway, I'm encouraged by the process.
Thanks. I'm Matt Leffert. I'm with the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, and I'm on the working group of the Tamalpais Lands Collaborative, and that's a partnership among California State Parks, the National Park Service, Marin Municipal Water District, and Marin County Parks with the community-supported nonprofit Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy. And we are very appreciative to Congressman Huffman for convening this group, and also very appreciative to this group of stakeholders as Leighton said, to getting us to this starting point. We believe that this is a great path forward and really adheres to the partnership principles that we as a collaborative believe in.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Barrett, and I represent. Hello, my name is Marilyn Barrett, and I represent Homestead Valley, in particular the Homestead Valley Land Trust. And my father had the vision to create this swath of land in the hillsides around Homestead Valley to preserve them for perpetuity. And so I'm proud to be part of this process. And we have come a long way, like Jared Huffman said, from a proposed parking lot on Panoramic, which nobody wanted, to a plan that's workable. But I would encourage each and every one of you to stay involved. I mean, this is a start of a process. It's going to be ongoing for a long time. And I would like you to get all of your neighbors involved. We really need feedback and involvement of the community to keep everything running on the right path. And so I would encourage each and every one of you.
Hi everybody, I'm Stephen Barchuk, and I'm a board member of the Tamalpais Community Services District. I live just a few blocks from Tam Junction, and you know, every weekend the entire Bay Area seems to empty out and come through our little junction, and they all want to get wherever they're going in West Marin right about noon. So I'm really looking for the reservation system to kind of smooth out that process, and you know, it's one aspect, Muir Woods. Maybe we'll get some reservation systems at the beaches next, and maybe later we'll just have a baller and reserve everything just for residents. Just kidding. But you know, what I wanted to do also is really thank Representative Huffman for his leadership, pulling us all together, because I've been through some Rancers meetings, and there was really no agreement possible, it seemed. And you know, the worst of all solutions right now is to just sit back and do nothing and just let everybody figure out when to come to Muir Woods and park wherever they can. And that's the current situation. So I'm really all in favor of trying something and then continuing the public engagement and modulating the reservation system. The cool thing about a reservation system, it can be tweaked. All the little variables can be tweaked. So if we notice some weird things going on in Tam Junction, which we have in a few months. If we continue to notice some weird things, we can actually tweak the reservation system and see if it can make a difference. So, thank you, Representative Huffman.
Why don't we go down to Nancy Wheelan. Nancy, you want to take that microphone right there? Then we can keep this one on this side.
Good evening. It's on? Okay. Can you hear me? Close to your mouth. Okay. I'm Nancy Wheelan. I'm the General Manager at Marin Transit. We provide the local transit service here in Marin County, and we are partners with National Park Service in providing the shuttle, the Muir Woods shuttle, which we have done very successfully for the last several years. We carry up to 25% of peak visitors on peak visitation days. So we think we can continue that and be a part of the solution here. We're looking forward to the reservation system because it will help us smooth things out, as you said earlier. So we're going to make our best effort to make transit part of the solution here. So.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Wright with Mount Tam Task Force, and I'm also the liaison to MWCPA, which is the community right above Muir Woods. I do also want to thank Congressman Huffman for his efforts to try to resolve this situation and get to some kind of agreement. Though not perfect, it certainly gets us a long way. Our community, you know, we're in complete agreement on the principles, and I'm delighted we actually got this far. I think it strikes a balance between stewardship and access. However, the devil is in the details, and that's where the MOU is going to come in. Particularly, my community is concerned about taking 7 years to finally get all the cars off of Frank Valley Road. I believe that could be alleviated by immediate enforcement of the parking, which doesn't require an MOU. And also, I'd like to see more details about greater transparency, because that's really what got us in this situation in the first place. So, but like I said, I want to iterate, we've come a long, long way, and I think we've got to an agreement that we can all live with.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Shannon. I'm chairman of the Mountain Task Force, which is an umbrella group of ecology groups and communities that's focused on the stewardship, the long-term stewardship of the Mountain Town and Muir Woods area. We are so appreciative of Congressman Huffman's leadership, breaking the gridlock, getting us together so we can sit down and talk things through. We completely agree with what you said, Congressman, in your opening remarks about this being a viable direction. And with what Superintendent Sears said, and we certainly have appreciated her engagement in this activity. Just what the world needs, another lawyer to help keep us moving along. We really looking forward to hear what everyone has to say and contribute tonight. And we appreciate the Board of Supervisors' open commitment to listening. What we have is a direction. What we have is a framework. What we don't have is the details and the specifics. And we all recognize there are gaps as this contract moves to completion. And we hope that the questions that are raised tonight will be respected, and we'll have a chance to complete a really ethical, fair, and transparent process together.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I apologize for being another lawyer. I'm Chris Carr. I'm the chair of Morrison & Forster's Environment Energy Practice Group, and I'm the counsel for Mount Tam Task Force. And I just want to start off by thanking and congratulating Congressman Huffman for taking this on. It was really not much in it for you. Took on a hornet's nest at great risk, and you've really pointed us in the right direction. The MOU, I think, puts us on a sensible pathway to addressing these issues for the long term. We're looking forward to the vetting and public process with the Board of Supervisors over the next couple of weeks to address some of these devils that are in the details, as Bob mentioned, from the lawyer perspective. And I apologize, one of them is, of course, going to be sort of having realistic compliance mechanisms, sort of looking for that. But really, I think with what Congressman Huffman with the other elected Supervisor Sears and Supervisor Kinsey, as well as the Park Service folks, Chris Leonards and Aaron Roth, sort of coming together. This really, to me, represents a historic breakthrough. And I just want to thank you for allowing a lawyer to participate in these processes. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Kaufman, and I guess the first time I came into Muir Woods was over 50 years ago for a wedding in Cathedral Cove. There was nobody there. It was empty. You couldn't even see the sky. It was so covered with trees. And we've watched it change over the years. So I want to thank the Congressman also, because in the direction things are going, it's been frightening. And with this kind of control, it may start to recover from some of the impact that it's seen over the last several years. And I want to thank Congressman and his staff and all those who worked on it. This is the first time I've been at this table, so I don't have a lot to say, but thank you.
Good evening, I'm Nona Dennis. I'm on the board of the Marine Conservation League, and I chair the Parks and Open Space Committee for the League. MCL has about an 80-year investment in the public lands of Marin County, and we've watched Muir Woods evolve over the years. I've been here as long, and I also can remember when Muir Woods was quiet. We've also watched the National Park Service really do a magnificent job of managing to preserve the resources within the monument itself, and really also manage the visitor experience in spite of the huge crowds that come in. They have managed to work in many ways to protect the ecosystem, but have been less spectacular in the results outside the monument, and that's where the concern is now. With all the work that's been done to protect the whole Redwood Creek watershed from the top of Mount Tam down to the lagoon, we see this one stretch of parking, which is the raw piece in the whole restoration effort. So we're looking forward to a solution which is going to remove parking, begin to protect the creek from pollutants, and this has been only possible, I think, because Congressman Huffman has brought us all together, and some others have done some very heavy lifting. Thank you.
I'm Gordon Bennett with Save Our Seashore, formerly with the Sierra Club. I'm the guy that shot down the 1,000-car garage at Manzanita, completely unnecessary. What was needed is what's on the table now, which is a reservation system, which I actually proposed with the Sierra Club 11 years ago. Now it's finally coming to pass, and I think it's great. My biggest concern is that this could have happened or begun, the process could have begun a year ago. There's been a lot of misunderstanding. I hope that's cleared up now. And my biggest concern now is that if we quibble over the last 1 or 2%, there's a chance it's going to get delayed further. So my biggest concern is we need to stay on schedule, because these things can slip and it can slip again. And we need to get those cars off the road immediately. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. That's my ad hoc group. I hope you appreciate their work as much as I do. And we're going to now turn to you, the members of the public who have joined us tonight. I got a lot of cards here, folks. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. We're going to get as far as we can. Part of that depends on your ability to stay concise and state your question, and then we'll see which, if any, of the folks up here on the dais want to respond to it. We may just take it as public comment under consideration, or we may have a response. We'll see how it goes on a case-by-case basis. But I'd like to call up the first several folks who filled out these cards. Bob Freitas, Craig Severance, Jack Crystal, and Dr. Edward Hyman. If you folks could come up, and then as we move through your questions, I'll call some others to sort of be on deck and at the ready. Bob, are you still with us? Great. No pressure, don't walk too fast. All right, can you use this mic, is this okay?
Sure.
All right, so there's your question.
So my questions were, I guess we're talking about... Okay, we're really close now, how's that? So, no? Here, I think I turned it on.
Better? Okay. So we're talking about the amount of traffic that's directly going to Muir Woods. And I really think that the real gorilla here is I'd like to know, I guess, what percentage of improvement we would see at Tam Junction with the full implementation of this plan, because I'm figuring it's only 10% traffic reduction.
Well, let's ask some of the folks that have been looking at this. We have mics, by the way, on both tables that will just sort of slide down to whoever wants to respond. Stephanie, did you want to speak to this too?
Hello? So in terms of how Muir Woods traffic relates to Tam Junction, depending on the time of year and the time, Muir Woods associated traffic from a study we've done previously ranges from 7 to 15%. It's just a fraction of the traffic that's coming through Tam Junction. So if we are talking about decreasing at peak times Muir Woods related traffic like in half, like I talked before, then rough math, and again I want to stress the roughness of it, you can see some improvement at Tam Junction, something in the order of 3 to 6, 7% during those time frames. Now, that being said, it sounds like a small amount, but folks have pointed out that are in this business of traffic that even a small amount can make a big difference in how it feels on the ground, and that some of our intersections can perform a lot better with even incremental improvement like that. But Tam Junction is a very complicated traffic problem, to say the least. And Muir Woods is just part of it.
Great, so I would just add, many of you may know the City of Mill Valley has been looking very carefully at traffic. Our entryway on the south is Shoreline Highway, and then to the north is East Blytheville. And we do know that a reduction of 10% in traffic can really make a difference in how those stoplights function. So it isn't a magic bullet, but it is sure a big step ahead to make these kinds of reductions over time in the traffic to Muir Woods.
All right, Jack, and if Craig Severance and Dr. Edward Hyman could come on up and be ready.
Thank you. This is Jack Bristol. I have to applaud, and all of us do that, to have reached a compromise where everyone is unhappy, and yet there is a plan. But I think that in all of our hearts we realize that the plan is flawed. And I believe that the flawedness comes from the fact that locally, everyone would like to eliminate the congestion, the traffic, the burden. And yet the national park has a totally different goal and purpose and what will happen in the future. And why not take care of the problem, which will continue, will get bigger, by building a large parking garage right off of 101, right where Rodeo has a big, big hole there, and charge fees for the parking, build some gondolas, and simply bring the people in a similar plan to their destination and totally alleviate the traffic and the circulation and the parking situation, which will continue to burden us all. Could you please, as a newcomer and as an old-comer, Mr. Roth, describe why not do that? The federal government can fund it. You can do a solar installation that will feed the energy, and you can be a model for 80-some thousand acres in Oregon County.
All right, thanks, Jack. Let's ask the Park Service. Okay.
I think as part of our comprehensive transportation management planning process that we participated in over a number of years, we turned over many different rocks in Marin County for where could we stage cars in a meaningful way for transportation access to the woods. It's a good idea. It makes sense. It's logical in a lot of ways. If we can get people out of their cars and arrive to the woods via transit, you have no disagreement. The issue is the practicality of it. When you actually start to investigate where would this large parking staging area be in Marin County or in San Francisco, a place for it does not exist in our opinion, especially during the week when the vast majority of the community is engaged in commuting to San Francisco from those same areas. So we think a plan like this one that balances modes of arrival across various different means, some through private vehicles, some through transit, intersected at Manzanita, which on the weekends is a site that exists with capacity, Manzanita, Mahona, whatever you want to call it, 101 and 1 Junction. That site functions well as an intersect facility. And then a third piece is point of origin transportation options, which are mostly fulfilled by our commercial and tour bus industry that will pick up people from their hotels in San Francisco and transport them all the way to the woods. But given where everyone is coming from, north, south, far, close, and different types of patterns, we really need that mix of arrival abilities in the right amount of each to provide access and inspiration to the woods for all those different types of people.
Good, thanks, Aaron. Anyone from the county want to speak to this? I know that there's at least one stakeholder here that fought against this very proposal. I don't want to turn this into too much of a debate about it, but if there's anyone from the county that has different thoughts, all right, seeing none, let's keep moving. All right, so Doctor, and if we could have Richard Owens come forward. For the next question.
Is it on? Yes. I saw you were jumping on that. I have to, first of all, join with my former neighbor, Gordon, in opposing this structure. But I do think Aaron, in talking about intercepts, might consider even intercepts south, north, and so forth, going in these various directions, maybe weekend usage of Caltrans parking lots in different directions, and see if we could, again, further eliminate vehicles coming in. I don't think NPS can eliminate the difficulty in Tam Junction, but I hope it can significantly contribute in a very meaningful way to whatever we can do to improve it. I have some concerns in that context about the buses, and I've heard discussion more generally limited. But again, I want to emphasize that I think particularly in this question of the number of buses, that's very important also for this flow through of traffic. Because I'm a forensic examiner, I go out on a regular basis, and I find that my commute is 50% longer than it was prior to the lights going in. I think that's a broader issue, but with the increases in traffic through that area, it's really pretty profound. We've got to do something about that problem in general. But one of the things that we can do initially about it is the number of individual cars. So I think the sooner that we implement the parking reservation system, move forward on that, and hopefully move forward much more rapidly on what's going to happen on Frank Valley Road here, Woods Road, in terms of the scheduling of getting cars off of that road, because I think it's extremely important environmentally. And I also want to salute the Congressman and each of you for your contribution in making this general structure happen. And I hope we can bring the same deal of wisdom that's been expressed in that moving forward.
Thank you, Doctor. I want to salute you back, and sorry if I am like the Academy Awards music occasionally. I'm going to try to keep us moving. Anyone want to respond to any of that? We appreciate the feedback. I want to, if I can, kind of keep it at the technical level. If folks in the ad hoc group feel compelled to add in, let's do it, but every time we do back and forth, we limit the ability to hear from one more person. So does anyone want to respond? Certainly welcome to, Gordon.
Okay, just really quickly. This program is not going to result in a flood of new buses on the road. That was the problem with the Manzanita parking lot. It was going to result in a flood of new shuttles on the road to take those people there. This reservation program will allow the shuttles to operate more efficiently, so they'll be fuller. So there's not going to be a bunch of new shuttles. Each shuttle is going to be fuller. So there's not going to be a bunch of new bus traffic on the road.
All right, thank you. Richard Owens, I called before. I don't think he's with us anymore. How about Gina Fagan and Doug Karpa and Nancy Gribbler? We ask you folks to come forward. I see Doug, so you're first if you get here. You gonna wait? Okay.
Yeah, hi. I'm Doug Carp. I just wanted to actually thank you all for undertaking this magnificent work. It's great to see this process go forward. I think two questions actually. One, obviously you're hearing a lot about parking and the issues about where the car is going to go if it turns into shuttles. I'm wondering if there are, it sounds like there are traffic studies and parking feasibility studies. Are those public or could be made public, just by way of information? And the other kind of, I think, meatier question is, my understanding is this puts out a 7-year timeline for reducing the parking, which, again, I'm just delighted with the idea of parking going away. What can be done? What can we do? What can you all do to shorten that timeline, to get that done more quickly? Because, you know, as you all know, or many of you know, I'm very concerned about the state of Redwood Creek and the species that live there. There's some significant issues. There is a time frame dealing with those populations. Is there, what's the constraint here, and how can we speed that up?
Supervisor Kinsey. Thanks, Doug.
Well, Doug, I want to say, first of all, that we're at 400 cars parking there today. By next summer, there should only be 110 spaces. 7 years is to eliminate all parking south of the bridge. So, and that is dependent upon a reservation system. So whether or not we can pick up the pace, there are factors that all of us could work on. I think support for the Park Services, modifications of their own parking, and increasing their capacity to deal with these issues on their own property, getting more people to use bus transit to come to the woods. These are things that could actually result in expediting the elimination of all parking along the creek. And I do think that the process that allows for us to meet